It's Diana House from thewiseentrepreneur.com, and we are here today with Alex Vander Hoeven, the CEO and co-founder of raceroster.com. We're so excited to have you here. Alex, can you tell our audience a little bit about what Race Roster and your team does?
Sure. Yeah, we do online registrations and really provide the back-end technology for endurance events, so marathons, triathlons, Ironman events. And we started it 3 years ago, a bunch of high school buddies. And
one of my old neighbors, actually.
One of your old neighbors, that's right. And his sister, two of your old neighbors.
Yeah, that's true.
And now her husband. So, started 3 years ago. We were all sort of in different businesses before that. And we saw an opportunity for there to be, better technology in the endurance space, and Brandon and Chantel being endurance athletes and really knowing the space well, and then my other two business partners, Bob and Chan, being technology guys, we had the right team and the right components to come up with something that could service the market and kind of offer something that's a lot different than what was currently out there at the time.
And you do know that I have been in a race against Brandon Land.
I do know that, yeah.
Western University's beer mile, and I think he was the only person who beat me.
He beats a lot of
He's
people, so
good.
don't feel too bad.
Yeah, so the beer was kind of my only chance for even being close, but
Okay.
He did kind of sweep ahead. So was Race Roster your first startup, or were you involved in any other entrepreneurial ventures before?
Yeah, no, before we were, so two of my business partners now at Race Roster, Bob and Chan, we were involved in some of the daily deal space stuff when Groupon Living Social was taking off. So we did that for about a year and a half, obviously a very competitive market, and we were a little late to the game, so that didn't quite work out. But as we were exiting that business, we were starting with Race Roster, and the transition and the timing kind of worked perfectly. So yeah, that's kind of how that story went. Before that, I was in consulting in Toronto.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I was going to say you have kind of a more traditional background. I know you have an MBA, and you were a consultant at, is it Deloitte?
Deloitte, yep.
Oh, okay, cool. So what kind of got you down that entrepreneurial path?
Yeah, since for as long as I can remember, I've always been interested in working on side projects or getting involved in things that were kind of outside the traditional kind of career path. Right from when I graduated from university in 2005, there was a group of guys that we all moved to Toronto and worked at a bank or at a consulting firm, but we had this little group that would come together and try and think of different ideas that we could we work on while we were working. So it's always kind of been there. Even going back into high school, same group of people, Bob and Chan, we were selling cell phone accessories at Roosevelt Mall.
No way.
Yeah.
So you guys always went to work together?
There was always something, yeah. And it's a good group, and we all have really different skill sets, so it works well.
That's awesome. So curious. So when you were like a little kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah. Originally, I wanted to be an animator at Disney.
No way.
Yeah.
And so do you have any drawing skills or?
I used to, not so much anymore because I don't do it anymore. But once upon a time I used to like to doodle and sketch and stuff. And I remember we took a family trip to Florida, and my parents, being good parents, they took me to the Disney Institute, and we did a little tour.
So did you want to be an Imagineer? Is that what it's called, or is that a different role?
That's I didn't even know that existed.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to draw stuff and draw the genie and make Aladdin Part 2.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So that was the original plan.
So you work with, is it four of your really good friends and you?
Yep. Now 5 because we hired Chantel's husband Robbie too. So.
Right. So I guess I've heard kind of mixed things about partnerships. Some people swear that a company can't really be huge or really successful without a co-founder, and then there's other people who say maybe one co-founder, but definitely not, 4 or 5. So what's your thoughts on that, and how do you kind of balance those different relationships, having those many people who have a say, and how does it work? 'Cause from what I understand, you guys get along really well as a team.
Yeah. With this team specifically, it works well. You hear a whole bunch of different opinions on whether you should go into business with friends and family, and in this case we all have different skill sets that are very complementary. There's very little overlap, and so you need certain skill sets to start a business. You need a finance guy, you need somebody that can manage a sales team, you need somebody that can take care of the ops and kind of the back end infrastructure, you need a tech guy. and it's funny. I mean, we're all really good friends, but you bring us all together in a business setting, and each person comes to the table with those certain skill sets, and it just, for us, it worked out really well. And after 3 years now, I can count the number of intense moments we've had on one hand. Yeah, it's pretty good. And I think the key is you all have to be sort of dedicated to the same vision, and that's ultimately creating a business that provides excellent, for us it's creating a business that provides excellent experiences for our customers, and as long as you keep that as kind of like the guiding principle, then all decisions are made around that, and it keeps everybody on the same page, and things can get settled pretty quickly.
My last 3 interviews, that piece of advice has been the consistent piece given about partnerships.
Interesting.
It has to be the vision, and that's kind of the one thing that's going to kind of make or break it. What about like boundaries and like rules? Like, do you guys create like a rule system or like a boundary system where, or is it kind of more flow naturally?
For us, it flows naturally. I know, our shareholders agreement, when we first started the business, we were looking at all these complicated structures and buyouts and blah, 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 blah. And I still think our shareholder structure is very simple, and I think there's still a lot of trust there, and knock on wood, I hope it doesn't bite us one day, but we respect each other and we trust each other, and we've been able to keep it pretty simple, and so far so good.
Let's talk challenges. I've once heard a quote that the quality of your life is often correlated to how big of problems that you're working on, and how big the challenges that you have in your life. And so as your business goes from small to bigger, the challenges seem to get bigger. So in the phase that you're in right now, what would you say are the biggest challenges?
I think so. We've brought the business now to a point where it's pretty stable. We've got a lot of customers, and so the foundation is there, and it's a technology business. And I think for us, it's like, we're thinking about where to take this in the next 3 to 5 years, and that's we're going to make a decision. It's either going to be a great decision, or it's going to be a mediocre decision, or it's going to be a bad decision. And so my biggest challenge right now with the business is, where do we guide this thing, and what's the correct vision? Not to say we don't have a vision now, but I think there's a lot of different directions we can take, and I want to, obviously make sure that we take the right one. So talking to different people and getting advice from, successful entrepreneurs in town here or outside of town is kind of what we're working on. And yeah, so it's a good challenge to have. I'm not afraid of it or nervous about it. It's just, I want to make sure.
So the decision making is kind of the biggest challenge, just as decisions kind of get bigger and bigger and
for sure, yeah. We've got a good thing going right now, and I want to make sure that we don't,
mess it up,
self-destruct, right? Yeah, because you totally can.
Yeah.
And the industry's right now, if you think about athletics and technology with wearables coming out. Every person has a phone with GPS on it, so there's a lot of neat opportunities there. And it's like, do we go into that space? Because we have, we work with 1 million runners, right? So that's a big.
And this business almost came out of a bit of a pivot in a certain way, right?
Sure, totally. And so when you have that kind of reach and a pretty focused customer group, there's a lot of cool things you can do with it.
So what are the biggest mistakes that you've made as an entrepreneur so far? I'm sure it hasn't been a perfect journey.
That's a good question. Mistakes. I don't know if there's any like super destructive mistakes yet. I mean, you can hire the wrong people, and that's costly. We've talked about the concept of this management debt. So the longer you wait to make a decision, or the longer you hold off on doing something, you're accumulating.
Maybe for our viewers, if you could kind of share the example that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, sure. So we just bought a bunch of licenses with Salesforce, and for the longest time we've been using a homegrown CRM, knowing that it doesn't have the full capacity of a Salesforce, and knowing that there's a lot of benefit to having Salesforce, but the switching costs and the transition is cumbersome. So even though there's a lot of benefit from it, you wait to do it, and that time that you're waiting is what we refer to as sort of management debt, and you're gonna pay a cost. There's interest on that debt. So now that we've finally switched to Salesforce, if we would have switched to it a year ago, the transition would have been a lot easier. Now it's more expensive. It's going to take longer. it's more complicated. So so
And
that's
it's funny because when I asked you that question about, what's your biggest mistake or what are mistakes, you really paused and it made me really think like, wow, entrepreneurs, we're so positive that like you maybe don't even think of them as mistakes, right? Because like as an entrepreneur, you almost have to rationalize like the learning and the positive in every single step. So I'm just curious, do you not look at anything as a mistake and more just as a stepping stone to kind of get to the higher level?
I think you treat everything as an experiment. So you
So
go
true.
right. You go in almost expecting it, like it's either going to succeed or fail. But it's like you went in knowing that there's, and not necessarily like an equal opportunity for it to succeed or fail, but you go in with the understanding that it could fail. So when I think you take that, mindset on it, then it doesn't sort of feel like a mistake. It's like,
right, you hedge it. You're not going to lose everything, but I'm always telling my staff that like just test everything.
Sure.
Just like test. Okay, that works. Do more of that. Like,
exactly.
And if you kind of take that approach, hopefully you'll never lose big.
Yeah.
You might not win big crazy overnight, but you likely won't lose big.
Right. And I think, coming back to one of your earlier questions on, what am I thinking? What are my biggest challenges? I think there could be, maybe in 3 years from now, depending on what decisions we make now, then I could come back to you and say what my biggest mistake was. But right now we've been taking small bites,
right?
So smaller experiments and sort of less risky experiments. So I don't think there's been any like crazy mistake. I mean, you do stupid things like you might, I don't know. You can you say the wrong thing in a meeting,
right?
And then your client kind of looks at you and you're like, shit, I should have said that, right? And so like, but there, nothing's like, so far we haven't.
It doesn't affect you.
Yeah, we haven't stepped in it too badly. So.
So a lot of people think that entrepreneurs are fearless, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. For instance, yourself, what's your relationship like to fear? Are you fearless? Do you feel the fear and do it anyways? Do you even think about this concept?
I think personally for me, I'm definitely more fearless than the rest of my business partners.
Really?
And I think I can be because my business partners are not as fearless. So there's balance.
So they're not going to let you do something crazy, and they almost need you to kind of push them to the next.
Kind of, yeah. Or if I do something crazy, then I know that there's enough sort of like weight on the other side to like recover from it or like balance it out as we head down the crazy path. You know what I mean? And
right.
Yeah. So
I totally get that. Jeff, my husband, he is pretty fearless, and I'm always going like, whoa. Yeah. But part of me, I need him almost to kind of do something a little bit crazy sometimes to kind of get us to that next level. Because if not, I might be a bit too conservative.
Right. Yep.
Okay, we're gonna switch kind of directions here a little bit. There's this kind of huge buzzword right now about like the morning routine.
Okay.
I'm curious, have you heard about this? And do you have a morning routine that you like swear by that kind of gets you in this mindset of like unstoppable when you walk out the door and go into your office of 35 staff?
No, I haven't heard of it.
Maybe morning routine?
Maybe I should. Maybe I need one.
Do you have any, habits or anything like that, habits or routines throughout the week?
No magic. I mean, I wake up in the morning, have a coffee, usually sit at my dinner table and just get into the emails and kind of knock off.
You just grind.
Yeah, you just get up and go.
None of this journaling or workout though.
That's at the end of the day.
Yeah, and is there a reason why you do it at the end? Is it kind of to help you like let go of the day?
For me, I'm not a morning person. But you go into the office and half the guys and girls run into the office. We got a shower there, and they'll come in with their, having done like for Brandon, he'll run 20K in the morning and then come into the office and he's ready to go.
So they kind of hold you accountable to like, you better have gone to the gym today.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's a competitive little office.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
What are your thoughts on personal development? Do you do any? And if so, what is that?
Yeah. I think from that side of things, a lot of reading. I've always got some sort of business.
What are you reading right now?
There's a book called Scaling Up. I just read the hard thing.
Very fitting.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's a good thing. Is like you can pay a consultant to tell you about all this stuff, but there's probably 5 books that have been written by guys that have been in the exact same spot that you've been in, and give you most of the answers, or at least like a good perspective or point of view on what to do. So I just read The Hard Thing About Hard Things, which is Mark Anderson. think that's who it is.
And what's your biggest takeaway been from that?
He is a big believer in, focus on your people, like the people that work for you, then focus on your product, and then focus on
the
profit.
3 Ps?
Yeah.
When I interviewed David Cicerelli, I asked him, like, what do you focus on? And he's like, the 3 Ps. In every single sector, the 3 Ps, so.
Totally, and I really believe in that, and I can see in the office when our people are performing at, an optimal level, the business is rocking. And when they're not, if there's something wrong, you can feel like a dip in the, just in the overall emotions.
And so what do you do to shift that if you feel like something isn't right?
I think there's a lot of little tactics. I mean, depending on the circumstance. I mean, in sports, if a classic example, you got a baseball team and they're on a bit of a losing streak. Like, there's nothing like a bench clearing brawl to get everybody like reunited and kind of moving in the same direction again. And then I'm not saying we're over there brawling, but
sometimes.
Yeah, you go in there and you shake it up, and you be very transparent on where the business is at and where we need to get to, and you make people accountable for things, and not to a point where they feel embarrassed for doing something, but you got to create a team environment, just like with a sports team or something, and you got to get everyone moving in the same direction and working together. And if some person's sort of being a little bit selfish, you gotta sort of nip that in the butt real quick and make sure that everyone's working together to achieve a common goal.
So do you do like a daily huddle?
The sales team will do a huddle.
Yep.
And we do a big monthly sort of, actually it was today, do a big monthly meeting, and everyone gets together and kind of goes through things, and it's
cool. So different things. They also like work out together, they run together at lunch.
Exactly.
So I have a feeling how your team works is, the rest of their teammates hold them accountable just as much as management does.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious, do you have a coach or a mentor? I think you mentioned there's a few people that you reach out to. Who would those kind of mentors be?
I think it depends on the circumstance. There probably isn't anyone that I go back to regularly. Certainly my dad has been probably the biggest coach through all this, and he comes at all these problems from a very different angle than I do. He's very conservative. He's been an accountant all his life, and
so you probably need that if you're kind of more the fearless risk taker,
going back to
that grounded perspective.
Exactly. So definitely a lot goes through him. We've got a great investor that came on board in April, and he's based in Manhattan. So he provides a lot of insight and sort of more strategic help on the decision-making process. So no coach or formal mentor, I suppose, at this point.
Cool. I feel like from what I've seen, entrepreneurship has just kind of become trendy right now, and a lot of people who are maybe aren't the best suited for entrepreneurship are kind of venturing in. What do you think those people should ask themselves before they kind of decide on taking the entrepreneurial route?
Do I have enough money to weather the ride?
It's a great question, right?
Yeah.
And do you have 1 year of living expenses?
Sure.
And had you done that before starting Race Roster?
Yeah. You got to make sure you save up, enough resources, and if you don't have it, in your bank account, make sure you've got it elsewhere. Support from family or friends, because it's going to take some time.
What else besides the money thing? Let's just say the money thing is what about even personality? You're asking themselves the tough questions of whether they can take it.
I think talent, right? Step out of your skin for a second, just really reflect on where your talents are, and make sure, or ask yourself if they're aligned with the business that you want to get into. And if they're not, are they, do you have, again, the support? Do you have business partners that can
you find someone to fill in those skills?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I've had that struggle. I don't have a finance background, and to this day, I've never had a great dedicated finance person on my team. And it's debilitating when you don't have that, because you end up kind of doing way more than you need to be doing and spending so much time instead of growing your business. So thankfully, I think I've hired that person, which is good. So we're going to end with the last question that I ask everyone, and it's a two-part question. And the first part is, what does wisdom mean to you? And then if you could share one piece of wisdom to guide entrepreneurs, no matter what phase they're in, whether they're just starting out or maybe scaling a huge company, what would that piece of wisdom be?
I think don't be too hard on yourself. You know, like we talked about, mistakes or failed experiments are going to happen. Make sure you have the resources to back them up. So if you're going to enter into an experiment or make a decision, make sure you have the the support to carry that decision out. And I think it comes, if you're going to take that leap of faith, make sure you've got a support system, family, friends, because there's going to be stuff that happens. Employees are going to do stupid things, money's going to get tight, life gets in the way, and don't be afraid to you need that support system to lean on. Everyone needs it.
Absolutely.
So hopefully you're fortunate enough to have that support system, and I think don't be afraid to lean, ask for help, lean on them, reach out to them. My sister, I talk to her definitely every week, almost every day, just about life, because you need that outlet to talk about different things. And I think reach out to friends and family whenever you need it. It's amazing how much love there is, and it's nice when they can support you, and it's great when you can support them back. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming today. I've really enjoyed kind of hearing your story, and some of it I knew, and some of it I think was just kind of going a bit deeper. So I'm sure our viewers really appreciate it, and I just wish you so much more success in the next few months with Race Roster.
Thanks so much.